Vista Community Television presents Vista and Beyond. Today our host is Nancy Noyes. And we will be talking about alpha-gal. And now to our studio for the program.
Alpha-gal may sound like the latest superhero. However, it is anything but. In fact, alpha-gal is a super disease that is not well understood by many, including doctors. Joining me for this important discussion is Jenifer Burton. Jenifer is a patient who has contracted the alpha-gal syndrome and is here to tell us all about it. I'm Nancy Noyes, and you're watching Vista and Beyond. Welcome, Jenifer. Can you tell us, please, what exactly is the alpha-gal syndrome?
Well, thank you for inviting me, Nancy. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here. Alpha-gal syndrome is a tick-induced allergy, not a natural allergy. It's caused by the Lone Star tick, and it causes those who have been bitten and become allergic to mammal meats and mammal byproducts. The allergy can cause all types of allergic reactions, and in some cases can be fatal. We have become allergic to the galactose alpha-1,3 galactose. That is the sugar molecule, not the protein molecule that most allergies are. So this was discovered in the U.S. in 2009 by Dr. Platts Mills and his research team while they were actually looking for why people were reacting and having anaphylactic allergies and several deaths due to a cancer drug.
Wow. Well, what are the symptoms of alpha-gal?
The symptoms are as individual as we are. They can range anywhere from simple GI distress, pain, nausea, vomiting, to extreme anaphylaxis where you can't breathe anymore, where you have swelling in the face, hives. Most doctors believe that hives is one of the main ones, but we have identified a subset now that is GI only. So there are people who have just GI symptoms, but the symptoms range from one extreme to the other.
Let's take a look at the first picture. And let's look at the next one, the tick. Okay, here we have a picture that shows some of the symptoms of alpha-gals. What would you say about this?
Well, a lot of the symptoms, like in the first picture with the fair, include joint pain, swelling, inflammation, rashes like you see here in this picture, the rashes and hives, swelling like angioedema and urticaria, swelling of the face, swelling of the throat where you can't breathe. Many even report heart palpitations and blood pressure drops and have reported passing out.
Oh, next picture, please. The previous one that shows the close-up of the alpha-gal rashes. Next picture.
Okay. This picture is of the FAIR chart. These are the different symptoms you can have during allergies.
Next picture after that. In what parts of the country is alpha-gal prevalent?
The Lone Star tick and alpha-gal can be found from Texas north to and including southern Canada now, and it goes into the entire East Coast, covers the entire East Coast. However, the most prevalent areas is a band of states that includes Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia and the Carolinas. That's the main band.
Oh, well, what about here in Arkansas?
In Arkansas, we're considered one of the hot spots. We're in that band of states. And we're also one of the highest in the United States for, or in the nation, for tick-borne diseases. Oh. So other than alpha-gal, we also, the state also recognizes tick paralysis, and both of those are syndromes. They're not considered tick-borne diseases.
I see.
We have Lyme disease, tularemia, anaplasmosis, babsiosis. Rocky Mountain spotted fever is very prevalent in our area, and as well as other rickettsias.
Okay. Could we see the picture, please?
This is the life cycle of a tick, and you'll see that they'll feed off of a host after they hatch. They'll feed off of a host, and then they molt and become a nymph. And from that, they will feed off a host again and become an adult. And then they'll feed off a host again, and then the female will lay eggs and die. And then the cycle starts all over again.
Why do so many doctors have a hard time diagnosing alpha-gal syndrome?
Actually, for several reasons, one of which I mentioned before. The symptoms are so varied. Anything from simple GI distress, which usually goes to a GI doctor, joint pain, inflammation, which might go to an allergist or someone who does arthritis, to anaphylaxis, which would be an allergist. There's so many specialty fields. And most doctors, if they've even heard of it, because like I said, it was only discovered in 2009, so in the medical field, it's relatively new. So a lot of doctors have not heard of it, and those who have know the basics from the beginning, which is rashes and hives, and they figure if you don't have a rash or a hive, then maybe you don't have alpha-gal. Since it was discovered recently, they have, like I had mentioned before, a subset that's GI only, and so we're trying to get that information out to the GI doctors that this could be alpha-gal. So it's very difficult for them to really grasp how all of these different symptoms could possibly be linked to alpha-gal.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, let's take a look at the picture of the Lone Star tick at this time, because you can see how big it is in relation to the finger.
Now, they're very small. That's an adult. So if you happen to brush up against a nest of newly hatched larvae, many people mistake those as chiggers because they didn't see them, but they have hundreds of bites on their ankles or their legs, and they go, oh, I got bitten by chiggers. In this area, it's a very good chance that they were actually tick larvae that had just hatched. Next size up would be what commonly is called a seed tick by most people. I think most people know what a seed tick is. They're usually dark brown or black, and they're very tiny, almost the size of a poppy seed, but you can see them. These that in the picture that are being pictured here, these are adults, male and female. The female has the dot on her back and is easily recognized. The male has slashes around his body.
Oh, okay.
So white slashes around his body.
Well, we were talking about why doctors have a hard time diagnosing. What are some of the misdiagnoses that some doctors make?
Well, because the symptoms are delayed, they're not like a peanut allergy. If we eat a piece of steak, we don't immediately react. Our reactions are 4 to 8 hours later, so most doctors don't make that connection.
I see.
So a lot of times we are misdiagnosed with things like IBS, or it's very depressing because we're sick all the time, so depression, anxiety, and panic attacks, because a lot of us report having heart palpitations and drops in blood pressure. So we're often diagnosed with anxiety or panic attacks. Idiopathic hives, because they can't quite figure out what it is that's causing it. Chronic fatigue is another one. Because we have so much swelling in our abdomens, some have been misdiagnosed with gallbladder disease and actually had their gallbladders out and had no relief until months later they find out that they have alpha-gal. The really sad thing is when I was diagnosed 5.5 years ago, at that time, it took an average of 9 years to be properly diagnosed with alpha-gal. So during that time, all of these other misdiagnoses and rabbit holes, so to speak, were being, tested, and people spent thousands of dollars until they found out that they had to stop eating mammal meats.
Oh my goodness. Well, what can someone do to be diagnosed properly?
Diagnosis is really quite easy. It's a blood test, a simple blood test. The problem is convincing your doctor sometimes that you need to be tested. A lot of our doctors think that it's so rare that you can't have alpha-gal. So let's try this instead, and let's try that instead. Insist on it. Insist on, if you know you've been bitten or a family member's been bitten, if you have any kind of reactions that you think that they're related to food, and even though they're delayed, 4 to 6 hours is the average, get tested, rule it out. Tell your doctor, I just want to rule it out, humor me. Just let's rule it out. And many doctors are really quite surprised when they get a positive test result back.
Wow. Well, you were talking about the different symptoms and how people react differently to the alpha-gal syndrome. Does everyone just react in the same way, or not really?
Oh, not at all. And not everyone, not every tick carries alpha-gal. So you may be bitten and nothing happened. Other people, because of their blood types or possibly other reasons we don't know why, they may not develop alpha-gal. My husband's been bitten many more times than I have and doesn't have alpha-gal yet, knock on wood.
Yeah, really.
But because the symptoms are so varied, we don't experience things the same way. So when I say, I'm one of the highly reactive ones, so when I say, this isn't safe for me, it might be safe for you or someone else. About 50 to 60% of us cannot have dairy. And about 30 recent surveys within our community have shown that 35% of us also react to topicals such as cosmetics. I can't wear cosmetics, or toiletries like shampoos, conditioners, and medications like gel caps. So about 35% of us react to medications, supplements, and cosmetics and other things besides just eating mammal meats.
Well, now, are there certain blood types that are more susceptible to the alpha-gal syndrome than others?
There has been some testing done in that regard. The testing that the research that shows so far that for some reason people with type B blood don't seem to get alpha-gal, and if they do, their symptoms are usually more mild. AB would be next. Unfortunately, A and O, I'm A.
I'm O.
We're the most susceptible for some reason, and they don't really know why.
Well, you started to talk about the other products that alpha-gal sufferers should be aware of. You mentioned shampoos. What other things do you have to be careful of?
Well, in my case, I'm one of the highly reactive ones. And for those of us who are highly reactive, we can't have a lot of products. I mean, simple things like Band-Aids, the adhesives in Band-Aids. Crayola crayons have mammal in them. So for our children who have alpha-gal, they may not be able to handle them without their hands breaking out. Vaccinations, the vast majority of all vaccinations are grown in some sort of mammal serum. So we cannot have most vaccinations. Medications, everyone, you get sick and you run to the grocery store and you pick up some over-the-counter things if they have magnesium stearate or gel caps or gelatin. We can't have those. Simple things that you don't think about besides just eating mammal meats. And some doctors, it's really sad that some doctors will tell their patients, oh, just avoid any kind of mammal meats and you'll be fine. And that's not necessarily the case.
Well, there we go.
There we go. So we have some charts. This one is everything but the moo. So this is an example of some of the various products. They use every part of the cow, same with a pig or a lamb. So there's these charts that you can look up, everything but the moo, everything but the oink, and everything but the ba for the lamb. And they list all of the different types of products that can have mammal in them that we have to watch for. Simple plug-in air fresheners, perfumes will even carry musks and mammal products.
Wow. That's quite a comprehensive disease.
It is.
So I understand that even surgical procedures can cause an alpha-gal patient to react and have allergic reactions. What can you tell us about this?
Yes, just like the medications and supplements, things like that. There's all sorts of things in our surgical rooms. Things like simple the adhesive bandages that holds an IV. If it's the wrong type, when I've had to go into the ER, I watch as they put my IV in, and I say, "Oh, you can't use that kind of tape. You have to use Tagamet. You have to use paper tape. You have to use." I have alpha-gal. The swabs that they swab your mouth if you've had surgery and you come out and your mouth is real dry. The swabs have gelatin in them. And the nurses don't know, and the first thing oh, you're thirsty, and they put one in your mouth and your mouth starts to swell. The heart monitor tags, the gel that sticks those on, they have mammal in them, and I swell up and have horrible rashes from. Heparin, which is often used in most surgical procedures, heparin is derived from pork, and studies show that over 50% of us will react to it being put in an IV and put into our bloodstream. So heparin is something that is avoided, especially for highly reactive. Now, if you're not as highly reactive, some doctors pre-medicate and can still use heparin, but that has to be watched. Things like pig valves, which is very well known in heart surgeries. We have a member who is desperate right now that her husband had heart surgery 5 years ago and had a pig valve put in. 3 months ago, he contracted alpha-gal, and that pig valve is now deteriorating at a very rapid rate, and he's going to need to have a mechanical valve put in. So even if you didn't have alpha-gal to begin with, if you get alpha-gal and you have a bone or that's not cadaver from a human, you could have issues. Dental work, I had some dental work done. I had to have cadaver work done. Have human bone put in instead of the normal cow bone or pig bone. So it affects all facets of life.
Jeez. Well, you talked about the inoculations or the vaccinations that you couldn't have. What about the COVID vaccination?
The COVID vaccination, the manufacturers have said that although dairy was one of the components, that they started with, the way they processed it and cleansed it, there should be no dairy left. And many of us went ahead and had the vaccine and the boosters as well.
Did you react at all from those?
I chose, because I'm one of the highly reactive ones, my doctor and I decided that it would be wise that I
Didn't take it?
didn't take it.
Oh.
So I avoid people and do all the other things that I need to do.
As you mentioned, Arkansas has 10 known tick diseases. What are some of them?
Well, the most widely known besides alpha-gal, which is a syndrome, like I mentioned before, is Rocky Mountain spotted fever. And recently I checked, I found out that we do, our state health department does recognize Lyme. So we have Lyme disease, the Rocky Mountain spotted fever, some of the other rickettsias, which involve rashes, star-eye, which is very similar to Lyme disease, tularemia, anaplasmosis, babesiosis, just to name a few.
Oh, yes. Well, the Lone Star tick can transmit other diseases, like you said, such
Yes.
as the spotted
Rocky Mountain spotted
fever. So some people report multiple diseases from one tick. How does that happen?
Yes, and just so I get these facts right, I want to read this one. Our current research shows that they gathered a bunch of ticks, and one of our current research shows 76% of ticks that were tested were infected with at least one disease.
Oh.
49% are co-infected with 2 or more diseases. 20% of those carry 3 or more, and 9% carry 4 or more, and they can all be passed down through their bite. The Lone Star tick, she's quite a monster. Because the males can too, they can carry up to 7 different types of tick-borne diseases.
Wow.
So many of us have been diagnosed with Rocky Mountain spotted fever and alpha-gal, Lyme disease and alpha-gal. The problem we run into is lots of times when doctors recognize, say, alpha-gal, then they suddenly stop looking.
Oh.
And they don't realize until maybe months later, well, they also had Lyme disease, or they have Rocky Mountain spotted fever. You know, why am I continuing to rash out even though I'm not eating mammal? It's because they have Rocky Mountain spotted fever or some other tick-borne disease. So your doctor may suggest having a tick panel done.
Mm-hmm.
We would, that would be a good idea, especially if you've been bitten several times.
Yes. Could we see the picture of the close-up of the tick with the Rocky Mountain spotted fever, the Lone Star tick? There you go. And I guess that's a female because you can see the spot in the middle.
Yes.
And that's how to recognize. Does it matter whether it's a male or female that you get bitten by?
No, and we have research that came out in 2019 that shows if the female is carrying alpha-gal, which they carry it in their saliva. So if the female is carrying it, and she lays between 5,000 and 8,000 eggs,
Wow.
every single one of those hatchlings will have alpha-gal. So now, if she doesn't, then they won't, and they have to go through actually contracting it from their meals.
So how can they contract it? Do they bite an animal or a mammal that has the alpha-gal?
That is the theory. I don't know that it's ever been 100% proven one way or the other, but the theory is that once they bite a mammal, because all mammals have galactose alpha-1,3 galactose that we've become allergic to. All mammals except for humans and some primates. So you can't eat squirrel, you can't eat rabbit, you can't eat any kind of mammal meat. They all have this sugar component in them. So you can
Once a person has contracted alpha-gal there are a lot of restrictions. So what are some of the safe things that a patient can eat?
Well, I think you have a lot of pictures on this too.
I do.
There's actually, you'd be surprised. We can eat fins, feathers, and reptiles. So we can have any kind of poultry.
Can we see the picture, the first picture, which shows Jenifer looking at some of the products that are safe to eat?
There we go. Like I started to say, we can have any type of poultry, which would include chicken, turkey, emu, and ostrich is my new beef because it's a red meat and it actually does taste like beef, so I use it in all my old recipes as beef. And duck, pheasant, dove, quail. We can have any type of fish or seafood unless for some reason somebody has another allergy to some sort of shellfish or seafood. And we can have alligator and snake. Now, I've had alligator. It's pretty good.
It's chewy, isn't it?
It wasn't bad, but I haven't done snake yet. So,
well, I'm pleased to say that I tasted some of your emu chili, and it was delicious. I had never had emu before, and it was really good. Could we see the close-up of some of the products that we have? Next picture, there we go.
So these are some of the products that we have to be careful of. Yes, you can buy turkey hot dogs, but most of the time they're in a beef or collagen casing, so you can't eat them. You have to make sure they're skinless. But there are turkey products such as the turkey jerky and the turkey pepperoni that are shown here that they don't have any other form of mammal in them. There's, of course, lots of vegan products. Like my makeup all has to be vegan, and there's just back to basics, regular vegetables and fruits and salads. So there's lots of things that we can still have. We just have to be very focused on very careful, yes.
Could we have the next picture, please, with the canned goods? There we go.
These, now I'm not going to say anything nutritionally about any of these, but these are safe. The Bush's baked beans, they have to be the vegetarian ones, and we always check the label because if they have lard in them, we're going to react. Yes. If it's canned chicken, it needs to simply say chicken, or if it's canned tuna, it needs to simply say tuna, and tuna in water isn't necessarily tuna in water. When you read the label, it says in broth, and that broth can have natural flavors, which sometimes they add mammal in it to give it flavor.
Gosh, well, let's take a look at the next picture.
These are some of the things that some of our members have shared that are safe. The Earth Balance Cheez-Its are those are vegan, and then the cake mix, one of our members is also gluten intolerant, so she has a gluten issue as well, and so she shared that cake mix with us.
Okay. What about going to a restaurant? What do you have to do there?
Restaurants, unfortunately, you really have to vet a restaurant. You have to be very careful, especially if you have any issues with cross-contamination, because yes, you can order chicken, but if the chicken is cooked on the same grill as a steak or a hamburger and the juices hit it, that's all it could take to cause you to have a reaction of some kind. So restaurants have to be fully vetted. Your safest bet is a truly vegan restaurant, because places like, I won't name names, but I'll say fast food places, they may fry French fries and chicken in their fryer, and that fryer may be beef tallow as the oil they fry in, rather than a safe vegetable oil. So we have to ask that as well.
Exactly. Have you ever been refused to be served at a restaurant?
I have.
How does that seem?
I would rather know.
Yeah.
If the owner and or manager or chef feels uncomfortable about serving me, that they don't think they can keep me safe, and then I would rather them be upfront about it. And you know, but one of the things that my husband and I especially do, we put our son through culinary school. He's a chef in California. So one of the things I've learned to do is we don't go to a restaurant when it's really busy. We go during off hours. We might have a late lunch or an early lunch, or an early dinner, so that it's not during the rush hour. And we can talk to the chef or the manager, and they aren't hurried or rushed and make a mistake that could be fatal. It's as simple as we had one woman tell her story about how she went to the same mom and pop pizza place, and they made the same vegan pizza for her all the time, and she felt so safe until one night she ended up in the ER. Oh. And she contacted him. She said, well, what happened? And it was a new employee who cut the pizza, her pizza, after cutting a pizza that had meat on it.
Oh my goodness.
So it's that simple.
Jeez. Well, what is the key to preventing a tick-borne illness?
Prevention is the key. I mean, don't get bit, don't get sick. If you put your sunglasses on and your sunscreen on, put tick repellent on, insect repellent on. It really is that easy. Wear light colored clothes so that you can see a tick.
Right.
If you're out hiking, take a lint roller with you. If you brush up against a nest of seed ticks or larvae, you can use the lint roller to roll them off of your clothes, because they'll be in the hundreds.
Gosh.
Simple things like that.
Can we see the first picture of the preventative methods? There you go.
You can purchase pre-treated clothing and have other clothing as well. And treat your clothes, treat your shoes. You know, don't be afraid to go out and hike, but just be careful. And when you come in from hiking, don't take your clothes off and just throw them in the hamper. Put them in the dryer. People go, oh, I'll wash them. No, put them in the dryer. Turn the dryer on high for about 10-15 minutes, and it will dehydrate and kill the tick.
Oh, that's good to know, too. Okay, let's see the next picture of some of the preventative measures. Talk about the one that's in the center bottom, about the tick recovery.
Okay, if you've been bitten by a tick and you're picking a tick off of you, we stress, save the tick. Don't destroy the tick, save the tick. These vials were provided to the alpha-gal encouragers by the U of A extension for some testing that we do. So we collect those and we turn them into them for tick testing to see what kind of diseases they carry. But save the tick, because if you should start to develop certain types of rashes or fever or flu-like symptoms, you might have some other type of tick disease. And that way the tick can be tested, and you'll know within usually 48 to 72 hours whether that tick was carrying a different type of tick disease.
Well, that's great. Well, we also have a shot of some tick protective clothing. Let's take a look at that.
This you can buy. This is pre-treated clothing, and I think it's good to 50 or 60 washes. And we wear this especially in the evening when we're sitting by a fire or campfire, and it's really effective for mosquitoes too, if you're allergic to mosquito bites, which I am now too. But you can get pre-treated clothing from pants to shirts, and those are especially good for hikers and for hunters. We recommend it for hunting, although many hunters do pre-treat their own clothing with permethrin.
So that's permethrin is something you can buy at Walmart?
Usually at a farm supply store.
Or I guess you can order it off
You can
Amazon
order it online,
too.
yes. And you spray it on your clothing. Make sure your clothing is off of you and completely dry before you wear it. You do not put permethrin on your skin.
I see.
There's some really good precautions about using it.
Well, I understand you and your husband, Eric, have started a special group called Alpha-Gal Encouragers. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, my husband and I are trained lay counselors in the care and outreach ministry. And that ministry includes grief recovery. And so in grief recovery, we have 6 different steps we go through called DABDA. Denial, no, this isn't happening, it can't be real. A tick caused this. Anger, I'm upset, I'm angry, why did this happen to me? Why didn't I put my tick repellent on? Bargaining, just eat a little bit. Well, that doesn't work. Depression, a lot of us suffer from depression because food is a social outlet for us.
Sure.
And then acceptance and hope. So once I got Alpha-Gal and he saw me go through the steps long before I realized it, we decided that was a natural step to reach out to others who have this and encourage and help them.
Right. Can we see the Alpha-Gal logo, please? There we go. Okay. And the last picture of Jenifer working with the young woman. What is the goal of Alpha-Gal Encouragers?
Alpha-Gal Encouragers has 3 different, 3 missions to encourage those who have Alpha-Gal, because it is very depressing and very, it's shocking what you have to do and life-altering. So to encourage them, to empower them to take their lives back and learn about the different things that they can do to feel better, and to educate. And educate's not just educate them and their families, but to educate our doctors, our pharmacists, and our nurses, our ER and EMS staff, because they're the first ones who see us.
Absolutely. Well, Jenifer, thank you so much for being here today and discussing this very important topic. We really appreciate it. And I think that this show will help people understand that there are some serious tick-borne diseases out there, and to be careful and safe.
Yes, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, we appreciate all of your knowledge and your information, and congratulations for starting the Alpha-Gal Encouragers. That is an extremely worthwhile organization. Be sure to watch Bella Vista and Beyond every second Wednesday of each month on YouTube. Just go to Bella Vista Community TV and click the shows you want to see and the date. You can watch at any time. You don't have to watch just at that time. And we are excited to have just upgraded to high definition TV. You can see this show today after 3 o'clock p.m. Don't forget, we're all volunteers here and we have bills to pay. Text the word donate. Can we see the donate, please? To 479-269-9426 to help keep the cameras rolling. That will take you directly to the donation page. Or you can send a check to BVC TV, 1801 Forest Hills Boulevard, Suite 203, Bella Vista, Arkansas. Be sure to include your name, address, email, and phone number so that we can thank you. We also appreciate the generous support of the City of Bella Vista and the Properties Owners Association. We couldn't keep the cameras rolling without you. Thanks to Becky Parmalee of Homestead Creation and Lisa Barutka of Three Wishes Travel, our silver supporters. For Bella Vista and Beyond, I'm Nancy Noyes. See you in November.
Remember, you may see this program on youtube.com by going to Bella Vista TV. You can also see this program on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at various times. This has been a presentation of Bella Vista Community Television. Thank you for joining us.